Hello and welcome to Simple Scotch Reviews here. Here we have Glen Moray Cabernet cask finish. It's an NAS whiskey bottled at 40%. It is also a single malt Scotch whiskey from the Speyside region. So one thing I'll say is when I sampled this whiskey for the first time, it was the first ever Cabernet cask finish I'd ever tried before. So that was very intriguing to me. And I believe in a previous Glen Moray review, I referred to this one as a Burgundy cask finish. Yeah, it's Cabernet. But either way, let's take a look. Little background, quick, brief background on Glen Moray in terms of my experience. It's been good. I'll say that Glen Moray couldn't hang usually at the price point of others for the age statement, in my opinion, in terms of if Glen Moray 15 cost the same as a lot of other 15-year-olds, I don't think it could hold its own. If Glen Moray 12, I think if they're below what others are, if they're a value option and present themselves as that, as they have, I think, for the most part, been on the lower end of the pricing scale for the age statements. That's where they belong. That's where they excel because I then would like to get them. But yeah, Glen Moray to me equals great budget whiskey and also a delicious 25-year-old portwood finish. But regardless, very, very good budget options out there from Glen Moray. Everyone else needs to step their game up on value options on that low budget end because Glen Moray is doing something right. And hats off to Glen Moray. Great job. Keep doing what you're doing. There are many of us that appreciate you for what you are and for what you do for the whiskey market. I wanted to say Burgundy again. Cabernet cask finish is a unique finish. I know there are others out there, but it's not a very common one, so let's dive on in. On the nose, I've had it several times, so the first time I had to do a double take because I'm like, this is not expected. It's a darker nose. It's got fruits, some other dark notes. Fruit, I do get like a winey note. Raisin, berries, fruit. There's an element of oak in there. Not really getting baking spices with that. There's a roasted, almost, it's like a coffee type note, maybe a burnt caramel, some kind of burnt note or something in there. Or coffee. Little baking spice does show up on the palate. Berry, darker fruits, maybe plum. Those things I think of, those sherry flavors, the plum, the dark fruits, what I call them. There's some berry. There's also an herbal note, a tiny herbal note that I get in this whiskey as well. Fruit and baking spice, little herbal note, berries, which is a little bit unique. The finish is longer than some of the Glen Morays, shorter than the portwood for sure, but longer than probably longer than the sherry cask and longer than the classic. Let's take a look at my notes here because I did write notes to dissect this whiskey. I had a couple other samples of it so I could make a proper review. I think I covered everything. I said on the nose, there's lots of fruit. It's dark. There is a winey note. I get that less the more I'm used to it. It was just kind of right away. Raisin. I said berries, maybe not strawberry, but I said maybe some other blueberry. At one point I got, but to me it's just berry. The palate was not what I expected coming off the nose. It seems like it should be with how I'm describing it. Dark fruits, baking spice, that tiny herbal note, there's berry. So it's similar notes to the nose, but that winey, dark characteristic, I was expecting like just tannins. I don't know. There's it wasn't what I expected from the nose, which I know sounds contradictory to what the notes I say are, because they're very similar between the nose and palate, but it just didn't. When I first nosed it, I expected something darker and funkier, but let's just say it didn't go funky or dark. No musty note either. I at one point got that in the nose, but I don't get that in the palate at all. The finish is not super long, but I was really, for whatever reason, in my head expecting kind of a bitter oak finish. Not at all. There's no bitterness in that finish whatsoever. Let's do one more taste. That herbal note is extremely subtle. I barely get it, so don't, if you're like, herbal sounds off-putting, don't let that turn you away. It is shorter than I'd like in the finish. I like whiskeys that don't have much of a finish either, but for this specific whiskey, I think it could do better with more of a finish. I get those same fruit flavors fading into nothing. Nothing really shows up as a surprise in the finish, nor is there any kind of woody finish that shows through after the other flavors are gone, like I sometimes get. Overall, good value like all the other Glen Morays I've had. I'd say that like you have the classic at the lowest price point, and then you have the step up to the wine finishes like the port and then the sherry and the Chardonnay and the it's Oloroso sherry, Chardonnay, and the Cabernet cask. I'd say that those wine finished ones are certainly worth the slight increase. So we're talking like from $19 for the classic, which by the way, for $19, that classic is worth it. I'd say that these wine finishes for $6 more or so are certainly worth the upgrade. They added more flavor, certainly more flavors, an extra dimension. But either way, I think that they're a step up from that classic, but all of these, the classic and the wine finishes, you can't go wrong at the price points. And I actually don't know if I've tried the Chardonnay, so I'll need to get the Chardonnay one to try for a review. But like always, Glen Moray impresses at the price point, and I certainly suggest getting it. If you're someone like me that likes to explore the budget whiskeys too, find some what's good at the low price because you don't want to spend more, certainly this is one worth trying. Look at the channel. The other Glen Moray reviews are going to be on the channel, so check those out. Subscribe. You'll get more reviews when they show up. I like to do a variety of budget and higher-end whiskeys, just kind of review them all. And we're going to bring in some other whiskeys from around the world. Right now, there's a couple Canadians, some Irish, and some Scotch. There's going to be more Irish coming up as well. So whatever you like, if you like whiskey, there's going to be whiskey for you on the channel. We might not see much Japanese whiskey on the channel. I still try it when I have the opportunity. Not really a fan, but we may put some up if I ever have some samples to review. So subscribe and you'll see. You'll get notified when they come up. Thanks for watching.